Okay. Very good. All right. So I will call this meeting of the Governor Moorhead School Board of Trustees to order. We have a quorum of voting members present. Michelle, can you do the roll call, or would you like me to?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call. Dr. Alan Chase.
Present.
Dr. Sean Takoon. Miss Tracy Wilkerson.
Present.
Miss Tiana Sims Beechler.
Present.
Dr. Ricky Scott.
Present.
John DeLuca.
Present.
Locke Mulholland.
Present.
And I see Nancy. Okay. Everybody's present.
Here. Thank you, Michelle. All right.
I'll be back on mute.
All right. So if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll get us started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic,
for which it stands,
which is
one nation,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all so much. You should have received a couple of emails, so I'll just draw your attention to those first. One would be from Michelle with the agenda, as well as some minutes. A second email from Dean with some information that we're going to review and take action on today regarding some insurance and contracts. So if you need that information, it should be in your email. All right. First up, I will turn it over to Nancy for a superintendent's update.
Wonderful. So again, good evening, everyone, and happy to be here and just sort of update you very briefly on my first 30 days in the office. So it has been a whirlwind, and just want to say overwhelmingly, I have felt welcomed and have had the opportunity to interact with and meet a good number of the staff that are here during the summer. I think I've met almost everyone, except I haven't made it all the way through the housekeeping staff and the maintenance staff, but that's to be done by Friday. So I have at least put names and faces together with everyone, which has been a delight. And right now, just want to share sort of three things that are sort of top priority. The first one being personnel. We have quite a few key openings, as I know you already know, and so I'm working very closely with Eric to prioritize and get those folks on board. And I'm happy to say that we have had two folks accept positions in the K-12 school, a math teacher and an instructional coach. So we're working through those to get start dates, which we're real excited about. We've also had conversations and continue to have conversations with our business and finance director. Right now, I'm meeting with him in the morning through a virtual meeting, but we're discussing salary. So we're a couple of $1,000s off of what he had hoped to be offered. And so I'm talking with him in the morning to see how far apart we are, because we have what we have to offer. And if we are that far, if $2,000 is a make or break, then I may have to see if there's options somewhere to try and work that through. We also feel like, though, he may be in further, and this is simply speculation, but that he may be also negotiating in his current position and trying to determine where he may land. So I hope to get a better feel for that tomorrow. Otherwise, we are actively looking and have posted positions for the outreach director, the human resources director. We're working on finishing up for the maintenance position. And in the course of those postings have had some expressed interest via phone calls, and people reach out to me as well as Eric Henderson that they may be interested. One of the challenges with the personnel side of it is continuing to work with DHHS in the maintenance department. Michelle has tried numerous times to get a meeting between me and one of the supervisors in that department with not any success. So I am going to try and she scheduled it now rather than trying to ask for a time that's convenient for them. Rather, she's just put it on the calendar. So I'm expecting their attendance next week because our maintenance issues between chillers going down and 3 air conditionings out and our grounds, we really need some help and support from them. So I feel like once I can connect and share our needs, they will be responsive. But during the transition out of DPI into our own state agency, I think folks may have forgotten some of the things that they said they would do in terms of our support. So they just need a gentle reminder of how they can, how we really need to continue to get their support as soon as while we're trying to get fully staffed. So I'm working on that area as well. That brings up the maintenance issues, which is sort of the second priority because we have we have chillers and air handlers. I'm learning a lot about HVAC in these first 30 days that are malfunctioning. So Evan is doing an amazing job getting Schneider and Carrier out here to address the issues. But in the same process, DPI is no longer our support system in terms of our capital projects. And one of the problems is with our brand new chiller. And so we're working with our contracted CPC to help support us not only with our capital projects, but also with our HVAC across the campus. So we had an emergency chiller brought in, a temporary emergency chiller brought in to address one of the buildings, and it was delivered today. And that's largely in part to Evan working with Muter Construction, who is our CPC contractor. So they have been absolutely wonderful in terms of supporting us. And the person who's actually going to be on site, we're doing a walkthrough next week in an effort for them to fully understand what our needs are with older buildings and the air conditioning issues. So that's another priority. And then third, we're getting ready for our 11-month staff to return on Monday. And so we're organizing a half a day that I'll be leading all of the staff through a series of activities around the theme of 5-star customer service, where we begin to look at some of our practices, identify who our customers are, and then figure out ways in which we can be better service oriented and focus primarily on what our customers' needs are. But we have some different perspectives on who our customers are. So we kind of have to come around common language. And that's part of what our Work Monday is going to be for half a day. And then Dan and Jocelyn in our K-12 setting and our what was formerly known as residential life, we now want to call student life instead of residential life because we want it to be more student-centered. So in our student life and our K-12 setting, they'll be working on some of the required trainings as well as welcoming the staff back to their two settings as well. So that's kind of my three priorities and just an update on where we are right now.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Any questions from members of the board?
No questions, just a comment. Sounds like you guys are doing some great work. I love to hear updates as they move forward and the temperature of staff as they return to campus.
Well, they'll be hot. but we're going to work on chilling as much as we can. And I would love at our meeting in September to also share with you kind of how that first day goes. So I'll be sure to include that in my updates then.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hearing no more questions. Again, Nancy, thank you for the updates. It sounds like you've been on the job for about 3 weeks and a lot has been accomplished.
Here we are.
All right, so now we are going to move down on the agenda. Some updates from Dean and I. We've been very hard at work on various items. So, Dean, I will turn this over to you to lead the discussion for those items. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to talk to you about a couple items. First, the insurance, potential liability insurance. And I apologize again for just sending this out to you today. I've just had a crazy week and a half. And so just way behind. But anyway, I'm trying to get caught up. I go on vacation tomorrow night, so I'm trying to get caught up. But we have gotten two different quotes for insurance. And if you remember, the new statute indicated we could purchase insurance, and we are looking at potentially, doing the property insurance all the way through the state as well. But I had mentioned to you and talked to you about previously the potential purchase of some type of directors and officers insurance, or employee or educators, I should say, in liability insurance coverage, primarily to cover us when we will not be covered, or it might be more difficult to get coverage from the Attorney General's office, such as in a special education due process matter, or even like a federal civil lawsuit as well. And so Melvin had gotten these quotes right before they'd come in, right before they'd left. And it was just so busy in his transition, and then Nancy coming in, I kind of held off on getting that information to you all because I wanted everybody Nancy just to have some time before we had to have another meeting. And it didn't seem like we could get another meeting in between when we didn't have, for those couple of weeks where we didn't necessarily have somebody in the superintendency role. So I want to go over this very briefly with you and then answer any questions. I also sent you the proposals as well. The first one is the proposal. We went through the state's agent, and the proposal is from Nexus. And it really is two different policies. It's directors and officers policies and the employment policy. But the grand total is, the premium is $17,190. This is probably more insurance than we need at this moment. We can certainly evaluate that later. But it does provide a $2 million limit, meaning that for any particular claim, they would pay up to $2 million, but an aggregate limit of $4 million, which means that in any given year, they would pay no more than $4 million in claims, has a $25,000 deductible. And it does not specifically mention special education matters, although after reading the proposal, it does look like they would be covered. It does cover administrative hearings of that sort. The second quote is actually two options from Surrey Insurance in North Carolina on behalf of the National Fire Insurance Agency or insurance company. Surrey is the local agent. This is the actual insurance that both schools for the deaf have went with. So this one is much more streamlined to provide exactly what we need and not more than what we need. It is an educator's liability policy. It is going to cover special education. It's going to cover any kind of federal lawsuits, like if we have a civil rights lawsuit, a student brings something like if we have a student injured and they bring more than just an injury type of tort lawsuit, but they bring some sort of federal 1983 claim or constitutional claim, it would provide coverage as well. The two options are basically just dependent upon the limits. The first option is the lower limits. It is $1 million. They would pay up to $1 million. The premium is $8,707. The deductible is also $25,000. The second option is a $2 million limit like Nexus, but the premium goes up substantially to $12,000. And the deductible is also $25,000. So that all the deductibles are $25,000. The key here, though, is it does specifically cover special ed, but it has an annual sublimit of special ed in the amount of $100,000. This was troubling to me, and I was hoping that the quote coming from Nexus or from the state's insurance agent would provide something of more detail, but it's also a lot more expensive. And so what that means is, so if we got a special ed due process, a special ed claim in administrative court, we would have to pay the first $25,000. Once we pay that, our insurance would kick in. That's our deductible. Insurance would kick in, but then it would only pay up to $100,000 per year. I don't imagine a special ed case at that level costing. Most of them are not going to cost $100,000. They're going to be somewhere probably around the 25 to 50, but that sublimit is relatively low. I was hoping for a higher sublimit, like maybe $250,000, 200,000, something like that. But that does give us an idea. I think it would cover 1 to 2 special education matters a year. If we did. Now we've had one. No, I don't think we've had any since I've been working with the school. And I'm trying to remember before, I don't know of any that was existing when I took over working for the school too. I knew there was one at School for the Deaf in Morganton, but we've not had one. So that makes me feel good too. But that's really kind of the primary reason that we would purchase this insurance. Again, is for special ed matters or other civil right, constitutional matters. If we see any type of claims like that, I think for the money and what we're paying for, I think probably the best option is to go for the National Fire option 1, which is the lowest limit, but also the cheapest premium. I think that is where we would get the most bang for our buck there. If the National Fire option 2 had a higher sublimit for special education matters, I would maybe recommend that one, depending on what the sublimit was. But I don't necessarily think we need to pay $4 million additional dollars just to raise the limit on the other types of claims. I would really prefer to raise it on the special ed claims. So that's my recommendation. Again, that's also what the School for the Deaf had went with. Both Schools for the Deaf have purchased as well, too. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope that's clearer than mud in the way I've explained it. Insurance is a complicated matter. So, but I'm happy to talk through anything. Also welcome any other comments. I know we've got multiple lawyers on the phone too. So happy to hear from them as well if they've got any other thoughts too. So.
Thanks, Dean. So the one you're recommending, that's the Nexus one?
No, the National Fire option 1.
Okay.
Which is if you are reading the screen or have a screen reader reading it, it's the second one. Nexus is first. Option 1 from National Fire is second.
Okay. And so then that National Fire one, that covered constitutional or 1983 claims?
It did, and it covered employee claims. It covered a lot more. And if I remember when we originally talked, I think we were trying to figure out just cover what we needed to cover. But the Nexus one it doesn't specifically say it covers special ed matters, but it does say it covers administrative matters. So we would generally, when it says that special ed matters are covered, and it doesn't have a sublimit, but we would be purchasing probably more insurance. And if we want to purchase that more insurance, I'm all about it. I don't necessarily mind that, but we are spending about $9,000 more dollars.
Okay. Does in your experience, do people bring special ed claims alone, or do they usually bring it in conjunction with other claims like 1983 or?
So great question. So generally the special ed claims are singular at first. They're by themselves because they are filing something in the Office of Administrative Hearings. And that court can't necessarily hear any type of constitutional claim or like a 1983 claim. And so if it's after the administrative hearing, if it's not resolved like through a settlement or mediation, either party can appeal. That appeal, you can appeal to Superior Court or Federal District Court. And at that time, if the parents appeal, like if we won at that level and the parents appeal to federal court, a lot of times you do see them throw in additional claims too. Those additional claims, though, would not be limited by that sublimit of $100,000 in the National Fire Insurance option.
Okay. Does the OAH categorically limit the types of damages they can get?
Yes, it does. And there's technically no monetary damages that you can get except for the payment of the parent's attorney's fees or reimbursement of attorney's fees. And so, for instance, if a parent sued us, they thought we were not providing a free and appropriate public education, and we could not resolve the issue at mediation or just informal settlement negotiations, and we had a judgment ruled against us at the Office of Administrative Hearings, that judge would not award any monetary damages to the parents. They would order things like compensatory education, evaluation, like a private evaluation, those things might cost us money, but the money would not go to the parent. The only time the money would go to the parent is a reimbursement. They do have a right. It's a fee shifting statute. They have a right to their attorney's fees if they win, or in the extreme case, the administrative law judge can order that we pay for a private setting, an educational setting. So the parent pulls their kid out, puts them in private school. They can order our school to pay tuition or reimburse the parents for tuition of that too. At that point in time, you're talking about, that well exceeds $100,000. But you don't find that to happen very often, especially considering we are a pretty specialized residential setting ourselves. You generally find that happening in public schools. And I'm sure Nancy and her work in special ed has had lots of parents threaten to, when they threaten a lawsuit, they want the district to put their kid into private school as well. But they generally settle for much less than that.
Okay. And then my only other question is, what part would have to be exhausted before any of us have to pay out of pocket?
Well, at that point in time, I think you all have, you have this insurance, you got the $1 million. You also have the state. I think the state would indemnify you as well. If not, then I'm not sure why anybody would want to serve on a board.
Right.
But and again, if you want to get to the $2 million, if you want to get to the $2 million limits for that reason, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't necessarily know if it's needed. But if you want that assurance, if we have a higher limit for your own, for the board's protection, for the school's protection, I don't have any objection to that. To say that, hey, it's $4,000 for option 2, or even $9,000 more for the kind of the double policy through Nexus. I have no objection at that at all. I was just trying to bring something more on the cheaper side and kind of pare down a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. So, all right, thanks. That's all I had. I hadn't had too much of a chance to go through the policies, but
understood. My apologies.
No, that's no problem. I understand. Yeah. Even if I went through them, I would still need your synopsis. So.
All right. Thank you, Locke. Any other comments or questions from other members?
This is Shantakun. I just had a question because you kind of touched on it, and it's purely a curiosity question, but just trying to frame the obligations. When you said that settlements might include additional assistance or compensatory services, the insurance money could be tapped for that?
Potentially.
Am I understanding correctly?
It could be. And so generally at the administrative level, the insurance company wouldn't pay that in a judgment, like if we lost in court. But if they thought they could resolve it and just pay some money, like for instance, if we agreed to provide some compensatory education, but the parent didn't want us to pay for it, they didn't want us to do it. They wanted us to pay a third party. The insurance company, we might be able to get the insurance company to pay some or all of that as a way just to kind of get it settled, including the parents' attorney's fees too. They would use some of that money to help pay for it towards attorney's fees as well. So, yeah, I've seen insurance companies do that on multiple occasions to just try to get something. An insurance company is always making an economic decision, always, and so they make a decision whether or not to stop the bleeding. and so there are times where they would make that decision, like, yeah, we're spending too much in attorney's fees. There's too much risk. If we go further down here, there's too much risk for our insured, the school. So yeah, we'll give $5,000 that you can pay for compensatory, reimburse the parent for compensatory services or something like that.
And I mainly ask because, like, one of the vulnerabilities I perceive, and like I said, there are actual lawyers around here, and I just play one on TV. It is that if there were to be some finding of compensatory skills and an external agency were hired to do it in terms of settlement, whatever caused that might cause other parents, and that would run a risk. And that's where I'm reflecting on what we put out. I'm thinking about what the hourly rate and what people might charge for those services. And so I'm just trying to frame some of that in my head. It had never occurred to me before.
Yeah.
That compensatory services could be something insurance could cover. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. Good questions. Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, hearing none. So at this point, we have two proposals, Proposal 1, Proposal 2. Proposal 2 has two options, Option 1 and Option 2. Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, your recommendation is Proposal 2, Option 1,
correct? National Fire, Option 1, the premium is $8,707.
All right, fantastic. Is there a member of the board who would like to make a motion for us to take action on any of these proposals?
This is Locke. I'd vote to adopt the policy recommended by Dean Shatley, the fire casualty policy number 1.
Okay, thank you, Locke. So you made a motion to adopt Option 1 of the National Fire policy. Is there a second?
This is Sean. I second.
Okay, there's a motion. There's a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Tracy, I'm sorry. Was that a nay, or did you just not get it in quick enough?
Maybe it's an aye.
It's an aye. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't. I think you had to. There was a delay with your getting off mute there. All right, thank you so much. So that motion passes. All right, thank you, Dean, for your work on that. The next item is a very important one that Nancy touched on just a few moments ago. So this is our contract for a CPC, which is a capital projects coordinator. And if you all recall, we had a presentation at our previous board meeting from John Jones, who was the CPC from DPI, and he kind of summarized all of the ongoing projects so that we were fully aware during this transitional time. Dean, anything you would like to highlight regarding that contract?
The only thing I would highlight is the 3 schools, as you know, went through RFQ process, request for qualifications, interviewed, I think, 2 different firms. Muter is the firm that the 3 schools at that point in time wanted to go with. Our office kind of helped, and John at DPI kind of helped lead that. My law partner, Chris Campbell, did that for the 3 schools. As Nancy mentioned, we've really already started working with them. This is another thing that is just delayed simply because of the superintendent transition, because it wasn't ready before Melvin left. And when Nancy came in, we're just giving her some time to breathe before we had a board meeting. The one thing I would say about this is it's expensive. It is over $300,000 per school. And it is a lot of money. On the other hand, I think Nancy has told the chair and I the other day she's going to get every dime out of it, out of Muter for this, and that's probably the same for especially the Western campus, Morganton campus too, because they have, like us, they have a lot of older buildings. And so we will have a completely assigned CDC capital project coordinator, CPC, excuse me, and we were just unable to, based on what DPI said, unable to really hire one, but we'll also begin the process of trying to hire one, or maybe all 3 schools hiring somebody that can be shared, or us and Wilson can share in the future too. So this is really just for a year, and we can certainly extend it if we need to, but it is there to allow us to have somebody who can help us navigate this as we kind of continue to go out on things on our own. So happy to answer any questions that you all have, but otherwise you do. Michelle sent this out a week or so ago.
And if I might, I did spend the day with Muter Construction with Greg Driver and the person that in the transition with Jonathan Jones here and DPI, and I was very impressed with Greg's questions, the conversation he had, and the support that he's offering. And not 2 days later, he was on the phone reaching out, and actually is the reason we have the children that we have. So their responsivity to this point has been stellar, I have to say.
Good. And I apologize. I said 300. It's 296,400.
Oh, well, then there's the bargain right there.
And I will tell you, they started at 400, so we were able to get them down. They started in the high 3s or right in the low 4s. We were able to get them down to 296 per school. So.
All right. Thank you, Dean. Any questions from members of the board? Okay, hearing none. Is there a member of the board who would like to make a motion that we approve the contract as presented?
This is Sean Takun. I move that we approve the contract as presented.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
Is it locked? I'll second.
Tracy, I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Sean, Tracy, and Locke. There is a motion and a second to approve the CPC contract as presented. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. All right, the motion carries. Very good. All right, again, Dean, thank you so much for your work on that and negotiating on behalf of all 3 of the schools. All right, next on the agenda, we had talked about this at our last board meetings, regarding a superintendent search process. So in the interim, Dean and I have had quite a few conversations. We also involved Melvin and Nancy in some of those conversations. We've also spoken to some stakeholders who are connected to the school, part of the school, support the school. And the proposal that we are bringing back to the board is that we would like to appoint a search committee. The general consensus, I think, has been that the board that we have the network, the capacity, the ability to get the word out to the field in an efficient and effective way to those who would potentially be a candidate for this position, which is a benefit that even a general superintendent search company may not have connections that run as deep and specific as the board. So, with that being said, the area of real need or the area of real support is more of the sort of the back office. So once a kind of managing the overall process, once a candidate or a slate of finalists is selected, um, maybe contacting references, doing background checks, things of that nature. That is really the area that the board probably would need the most support. And Dean has indicated that his firm could provide that support. And Dean, I'll let you speak to that in just a moment. So again, to summarize, the proposal is that we would like to establish a search committee that is composed of both members of the board and stakeholders that are affiliated with the school, who would be responsible for the search process. We would post the position through NeoGov, through the typical channels, get the word out on the street, and then Dean's firm can support some of the back office work of that committee. Dean, anything you would like to add to that?
Sure. Happy to. We're happy to help out however you need us to, but we are very accustomed to helping clients post, taking in all the applications, putting them all together for search committee members or school boards, letting them review it. Once they decide who the board should interview, then making the contacts, making scheduling arrangements, especially if anybody has to travel. I presume you all might do some Zoom meetings or interviews initially if you have out-of-state people, but if somebody gets to a finalist stage, you're going to want to bring them in. So doing that, and then of course checking the references too. So we're happy to help out. I think we can kind of get this worked out. I would suggest if we do bring on non-board members or non-employees in the search process on this committee, I would encourage us to also utilize a non-disclosure agreement to ensure that they know to keep it confidential under state law, and we could provide that information as well.
Okay, thank you, Dean. So with that being said, that is the proposal that we are bringing back for consideration by the board. Is there any questions, comments, concerns?
Sorry, I was coming into the house, so I was losing connection. But did you say you was recommended to have non-employees? Like, what was the mix that you said? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure, Tracy. So the proposal is to establish a search committee. That search committee would be composed of members of the board, as well as some select stakeholders. Excuse me. So that, for example, that might be a representative from the Alumni Association, maybe a representative from the GMS Foundation, things like that. So other school affiliated entities.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Alan, this is Sean. I'm just wondering if it would make sense for that to be phrased may, just because we do have a lot of that representation, and so it doesn't become a requirement. Would that be advisable?
Sure. I mean,
Sure,
I don't have any issue with that, and that's completely up to you all. But certainly.
Nancy, did you?
I wanted to ask a question. Yes. And employees possibly would be included in the search committee?
Could be, yes. And I would suggest now, ultimately, the board cannot delegate its hiring of a superintendent. And so the search committee only gets you so far, right?
Right.
Like maybe the search committee gets you to like a first round of interview, or maybe just even selecting who to interview. But when it comes down to it, the 7 of you all need to be in that final interview, and it will only be you making that selection. So again, these people too could just kind of help you maybe also set, what are you looking for in a superintendent, right? Give us feedback. Who do you want us to search for? And so I think you all have got to just figure out where that line with any type of search committee will be. Like, where will you draw it where they are no longer part of the process? Is it at giving input? Is it at selecting who to interview? Is it after the initial interview, a first round interview or Zoom, and you could do that over Zoom or telephone or whatever. So that's just something that the board will probably just have to kind of figure out too. And you can do that now, or you can do it later, but that would be something we will need to decide.
This is Tiana. Would we as a board determine who, or how would we determine who would serve on this committee? Not so much as board members, but the community stakeholders. Would there be an application process that people from the community or the school would apply to be a part of this committee? And then we would go through it? Or how would that work?
Well, that's a great question, Tiana. I think my initial thought to this is, and thank you, Dean, for sort of clarifying what was in my head, but maybe my words didn't necessarily match my thought. So essentially, I think from the discussion, the vision is that this is sort of a subcommittee of sorts that would potentially screen applicants, and so I would say that the members of the board who serve on this subcommittee could then potentially determine who the other stakeholders are. It could be an application process. It could be that maybe the presidents of those affiliated organizations are invited. I think it's open to the pleasure of the board.
Alan, may I interject? And I don't know if this is a conflict of interest because I am interim or what, but just to share with the board, in my previous role as director of district and school transformation at DPI, I had to facilitate, lead, and participate in the national search for a superintendent in the school system that we were very closely involved with. So I have a lot of experience on what worked well and what didn't. And so whatever role I might serve in this search committee and through this process, I just want you to know I have that background and experience. So I'm happy to do that if that's helpful to the board.
Thank you. I think that was kind of where my mind was going, because I think we've had this conversation before where we strive for that balance, where we want that VI component, but we also want that public, you know what I'm saying? That administrative level experience as well factored in. And so just making sure that the committee is balanced and approaching that search from that perspective.
Yes, well said. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns?
Well, yes, this is John. One thought that I have, and it's just something to be mindful of, is how fast time goes, and to the extent we have a larger search committee, an application process. I would wonder how that might impact timeframes. Also, the scheduling of committee search committee meetings and activities. So I think that's just something we have to keep in mind.
That's a good point. Thank you, John. Nancy?
This may not,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. This may not be the appropriate time to interject this, but I just want the board to know that in my conversations, as I have interacted with most of the staff that's been here, I have told them I'm committed to this work until I'm not, until the board excuses me, so that they can understand that I really am here for the duration to transition the new person in. So I just want you to know that I'm committed. I'm invested now because I've met people. So y'all got me now.
Well, I view that as a huge plus, a very significant development, Nancy.
Well, I appreciate that.
And to further John's point, because he raises a great point, also being mindful that while we want to have adequate representation on this search committee, especially if they're going to be conducting, I'm going to use air quotes, initial interviews, to be mindful of what a panel would look like to candidates. So we might not want to have, and I'm being a little facetious here, but 15 people interviewing a candidate. That can be a little daunting.
Sure.
and may cause some to clam up when they may have qualifications that may shine. So just being mindful that sometimes less is more.
Absolutely.
And then this is Tiana, and I promise you I'm done. I promise you after this I'm done. It would also be extremely helpful, just from the panels that I've been a part of over my career, that after each initial interview, if people could stay around after the candidate is dismissed to just kind of write a summary of things that they noticed, that they liked, standout points, so that could be forwarded to the entire board for those candidates that are determined to move forward.
Great suggestion, Tiana. Thank you.
Thank you. And I promise you that was it, Alan. I promise you.
Oh, keep it coming. Keep it coming. You're I think that I think the underlying concern here, which is again why the proposal was brought forth the way it was, is that for the previous history of the school, for the role of the superintendent or director under the previous title was largely done in isolation. And so there's a perception among some stakeholders that now that there's a board, now that there's a shift in governance, there's a shift in other factors, that maybe now there's an opportunity for there to be more of a voice. Because during those the times in which the school was administratively housed under an agency, those interview panels, those processes were largely done behind closed doors without the school community. And again, I just mentioned that because that's what, just for me being on campus, me being around, that's what folks have shared with me.
Thank you for sharing that, because there is something to say of collaborative effort. I think you get more buy-in from the community at large when they feel that they've had a seat at the table. We just don't want the table to turn into a stadium.
Yes, for sure. For sure. 100%. All right. Well, with all of that discussion, and we certainly can have more discussion if anyone has any additional comments. If anyone would like to comment. Oh, yes. Ricky?
Yes. We know the nature of politics. And my concern is, once all this, as we get into this process and the work is being done, will what we do as a board, will that be permitted? In other words, will some political figure say, hey, look, here's my person. I want this person to have this position. I mean, you know, there's always that possibility, I guess, but that is, you know, a concern that I would have. You know, after we do all this work, then some political figure says, oh, no, I want this particular person to have the position. So I'm just concerned about our degree of independence to carry this process, to make this whole process come to a conclusion where we select will be the person. Granted, I understand that no one necessarily can comment on that, but that's just my thought on that.
Ricky, this is Dean. I would say that we helped the Morganton School with its search. My law partner did. It did not happen there. And so I would hope it wouldn't happen with us either. And again, of course, that's all we can ultimately say, but I wouldn't foresee it happening.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
All right, so it sounds like
if I may, I just want to clarify that at the end of the day, it is the members of this board that vote, correct?
Yes.
So that there is nothing in the document, nothing in any sort of documentation or anything that says that there's appointment privilege politically, correct?
Correct. Yep. The appointment privilege is this board.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I thought.
That's who they get to appoint. Yeah.
And that was my reading of everything when I originally read it. I just wanted to clarify, and I can tell you, Ricky, swaying is not part of my life. I don't know about all my colleagues, but that's GMS is my interest here.
If I might also share, I have already had colleagues reach out to me wanting to have conversation about the possibility of applying. So there is interest in the world out there that has already reached out to me, which is a great thing.
It is good. All right, so hearing the discussion and the various options, is there a member of the board who would like to make a motion as to the appointment of a search committee and potentially the composition of such committee?
This is Tiana. I make a motion to establish this committee. As far as the appointments, I'll leave that part out, but my motion is to at least establish the superintendent search committee.
Okay, thank you, Tiana. There is a motion to establish a superintendent search committee. Is there a second?
Is this a lock? I'll second.
All right, there's a motion. Excuse me. There's a motion and a second to establish a search committee for the role of superintendent. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
I would be interested in hearing if people think it's appropriate, what people's thoughts about the size of this committee would be. Not necessarily down to the 8 versus 9, but generally speaking, how large a group are people envisioning?
This is Tiana. I would say I think a sweet point for me would be 5, if I'm being totally honest with you.
That's what I was thinking.
This is Sean, and all the research I've ever read, it says 6 to 10 is generally the like documented sweet point somewhere in there. So yeah, I was probably thinking 6 myself.
Okay, very good. John, did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. So with that being said, we do have a motion and a second on the table. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of establishing a superintendent search committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Okay, it sounds like that motion passes. All right, so we have a search committee. Great. Yes, we do. So now, moving forward, how would we like to structure this committee?
Well, my first question would be, as far as stakeholder groups, us not including employees, how many are we talking about? I know we have the foundation.
The two that I would say have the closest affiliation to the school would be either the GMS Foundation, probably has the closest connection, and then followed by the Alumni Association. And anyone else feel free to add. I mean, I'm sure there's other stakeholders, of course, but those are ones that I would say have a direct affiliation with the school. So then, so I guess, so with that, hearing no other comments, if we are looking at a committee of potentially 5 to 6 with representation from this board, as well as potentially maybe the foundation and the Alumni Association, you could potentially have, I'm just tossing this out, you could have maybe 3 board members and then two representatives from either of those organizations.
This is Tiana. I think if we have 3, depending on who they are, would we be breaking quorum? Quorum law?
It would still be, excuse me, since the board is forming this committee, it is still a kind of public body. It'll meet in closed session. So it's still a public body. So it doesn't matter if you have 3 board members or 4 board members or two board members.
Oh, yeah. Good question, Tiana. Thank you.
Well, see, because I was writing it out as you were speaking. So I had written out to meet 6. Board member, someone from the GMS Foundation, one from the GMS Foundation, 1 from the Alumni Association, a staff, and then Miss Barber. And that would bring it to 6.
That sounds good. Manageable and appropriate. Would we let GMS Foundation pick their representative?
I would imagine that we would extend the invitation and they would nominate their representative internally or appoint.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, we could certainly, if we have a preference for a particular, I wouldn't say person, but a particular position, we could certainly extend the invitation and say, we would prefer the president, or it could be a representative of your choosing. it could be the president or a designee, however we see fit.
And likewise for the staff member, would the board provide guidance on how we might select that person?
I would nominate
I am-
Michelle.
Yes.
She's gonna be more.
Miss Michelle. I'm in the spirit of what Alan had said earlier. I think allowing others to have voices at the table, maybe an interest. Hey, there's a search committee, a superintendent search committee being conducted by the board of trustees. If you're interested in participating or being a part of this committee, submit this form or write a note or however indicating your name and your interest in serving. And then I think it could be weeded out, because I would also hate, that's such a strong word, but hate to ask someone who may not have the work capacity, mental capacity, emotional capacity to that committee, because I think it's going to be pretty extensive. So kind of just leaving that in their hands to express their interest. And then if we don't get anyone, which I don't think we will, then we can go into the ball and telling folks.
Voluntold.
If needed. I don't think we'll get there, but
we won't.
Yeah. Nancy,
What is our time frame for? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Locke.
What is our time frame for having to get the committee together, reaching out to candidates, interviewing, and then making a decision? Do we have a schedule that we're looking at for deadlines?
Well, I think ideally, this committee would probably come up with that timeline, assuming that school starts in August. We know we have Nancy until December, maybe for the foreseeable future. We would certainly want it to be as efficient as possible, but I think that committee could probably come up with that timeline.
Okay. All right.
My question to Nancy was, I don't know. Do we have sort of like a staff council, a staff, somewhere where maybe staff take a leadership role?
We will. In the currently, I would say there are positions that serve in quasi leadership roles, but I know that there have been interests discussed informally about wanting to be a part of this process from several groups. So I can think of a process that I would develop to get like a little simple form, something on a Google form that people could just say, this is my interest and why I'm interested. And then we could certainly go through and look at that. I think that would be a great way, because that's giving voice on the front end as well. And then we'd have a representative that was invested in the process, but also had expressed an interest, but others' voices were heard. So I think I could manage that without any problem. Getting one member might be hard, but I'll do it. I would want to add that I'd really encourage us to find a person who has sort of a global view of the new state agency of Governor Moorhead versus a person who may not have an understanding of the entire agency. Sure. So that would probably be something I'd like to sort of consider as we see who's interested.
Nancy, I really appreciate you sharing that, because that was also in the back of my head when we were looking at the interest parties and everything else, with DSB being on campus, with and even with the structure of Governor Moorhead School now. There's a part of me that thinks like one staff member with like the 3 departments and divisions. So yeah, I appreciate that attention to detail.
Yeah, it's a good comment. I constantly remind folks, and I think we talk about this quite a bit as a board, that the school really has even now we have one leg in the arena of state government, state agency. We have another leg in the 115C, the public school sector, and so we really do need somebody who has a firm grasp of both state government operations as well as school operations, because we live in both worlds, and it's a unique world.
It is, and to add on to that, there may be someone out there who may not have that experience at GMS, but throughout their career, they've, you know what I'm saying, they're able to leverage that and bring a fresh perspective. So I think opening it up to those and just asking those questions may identify someone that we didn't even know brought those attributes. So I like it.
Absolutely. All right. So based on the discussion, I'm just going to toss it out there. Is someone willing to make a motion for the search committee to be composed of? Let me make sure I get this right. Three board members, a representative of the Alumni Association, a representative of the foundation, a school employee, and then Dr. Barber.
That would bring the total to 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I must have added somebody somewhere.
Yeah, it would be 2 board members.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My apologies.
No, you're good.
All right. So 2 board members, representatives from the foundation, alumni, a school employee, and then Dr. Barber. Do I hear a motion as such?
Motion as such.
Thank you, Tiana. We have a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
This is Locke. I'll second.
All right. Thank you so much, Locke. There's a motion and a second to have a search committee with 2 board members, a representative of the alumni, a representative of the foundation, a school employee that Dr. Barber will identify, and then Dr. Barber herself. Any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you all very much. All right, our last agenda item, last but not least. So under, and this is a little, the stagger is a little bit off because of the time in which the board took office and the appointments from the General Assembly. So, because we took office, the board took effect in an even numbered year. The statute that established the board requires that we must have elections for the board chair and the board vice chair. The first meeting of the board after the start of the fiscal year in odd numbered years, and the terms of the board chair and the board vice chair are for 2 years. So our stagger is a bit off because at this point we only served 1 term. However, it's an odd numbered year, and this is the first board meeting following the start of the fiscal year. So, with that being said, at this time, is there? I want to open the floor for anyone who is interested in serving in the position of chair of the board.
or you can nominate somebody else.
Thank you, Dean.
You're welcome.
This is Tiana. I make the nomination of Dr. Alan Chase to remain as board chair for the next 2 years.
All right.
This is Locke.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Okay. Thank you, Tiana, and thank you, Locke. So there is a motion and a second to nominate Dr. Chase to continue in the role of board chair. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, the motion carries. Well, thank you all very much. I am especially honored to serve in this leadership capacity. All right, I would now like to open the floor for nominations or voting on the position of vice chair of the board. Tiana, are you interested in continuing in your role?
I will serve at the pleasure of whatever this board decides. Is that diplomatic enough?
That was great. I just felt like I would ask the question. Is there anyone who is interested in serving as the vice chair, or is there a nomination?
This is Sean. I will nominate Tiana to serve as the vice chair.
All right, Tiana,
Locke, I'll second motion.
do you accept
sorry, go
the
ahead.
nomination, Tiana?
I accept the nomination by my peers. Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. All right, and I heard a second from Locke, so we have a motion and a second to for Tiana to continue to serve as the vice chair of the board. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. All right, the motion carries. Great. Tiana, thank you very much for your continued service.
Thank you. I'm honored to serve in whatever capacity that Governor Moorhead and my peers on this call and the community at large need me. Just a call away.
Excellent. All right. Well, to each of you, again, I want to express I greatly appreciate each of you as serving on our board. Your service and dedication is greatly appreciated. The school appreciates you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time this evening. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Sean Tacoon, second.
All
Beat
right,
me
there's
to
a
it.
motion. There's a motion and a second to adjourn. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? All right, this meeting of the board is adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you
Take
all.
care.
Thank you.
too.
You too.
Take care, y'all.